Most people speak to be heard. Few stay silent to understand. The difference defines success. You are surrounded by noise, opinions, distractions, constant reactions. But the ones who rise, the ones who lead, the ones who master life, are the observers. They watch while others rush. They see patterns others miss. This audiobook will teach you how to stop reacting, start observing, and turn silence into the sharpest power you own. From this moment forward, your quiet will speak louder than anyone's noise. Chapter 1. Speak less. Notice more. Most people don't listen to understand. They listen to respond. They talk to fill silence. They talk to prove they belong. They talk to show they matter. But here's the truth, the more you talk, the less you see. Every word you rush to say blinds you from what's happening around you. You can't notice what you keep drowning in noise. Silence exposes truth. It always has. When you stop talking, you start noticing. You notice tone. You notice energy. You notice what's not being said, the hesitation before a word, the glance away, the subtle shift in confidence. That's where real understanding lies. Not in what people say, but in what they reveal. You have a choice, to keep reacting or to start observing. That's the key. When you speak less, you create space. And in that space, everything becomes clear. You start to recognize patterns in people. You start to see intentions behind words. You stop being fooled by appearances. Observation isn't about standing still and watching life pass by. Observation is active. It's powerful. It's the discipline of paying attention when everyone else is distracted. It's about training your mind to see beyond the obvious. Most people think talking makes them confident. But confidence isn't loud. Confidence is quiet. Confidence doesn't need to be heard. It's calm, focused, and aware. When you're truly confident, you don't chase attention, you command it. You don't need their permission to be silent. You don't need their validation to stay calm. That's mastery. You want to understand people? Then stop explaining yourself to them. Stop trying to convince them. Stop filling silence with empty words. Every time you feel the urge to speak, pause. Ask yourself, why do I need to say this? If it's not adding clarity, don't say it. If it's just noise, let it die in silence. That's how you build awareness. That's how you gain control. The more you observe, the more powerful you become. Because the observer always knows more than the participant. The observer isn't caught in emotion. The observer isn't trying to win the argument. The observer is learning. Learning what motivates people. Learning what triggers them. Learning how energy shifts in every interaction. Stop explaining. Start observing. That's the mantra. Repeat it until it becomes instinct. Every time you feel the pull to interrupt, remember, your silence has more weight than your words. Every time you want to defend yourself, remember, people reveal more in their response to your calm than in your reaction to their noise. You're not ignoring them. You're studying them. That's the difference. The world doesn't need more people talking. The world needs people noticing. Noticing when something feels off. Noticing when the energy in a room changes. Noticing when someone's words don't match their actions. That's what observation gives you, clarity. And clarity is power. Think about every mistake you've made because you weren't paying attention. Every person you trusted too quickly. Every argument you fell into. Every opportunity you missed because you were too busy speaking when you should have been seeing. That's the cost of noise. Observation is awareness. Awareness is protection. When you observe, you move smarter. You choose better. You act from understanding, not impulse. You have a choice. You can keep reacting like everyone else, loud, emotional, desperate to be understood. Or you can step back, go quiet, and see what no one else sees. Silence is a test most people fail. Because silence makes them confront themselves. In silence, your thoughts get louder. Your truth surfaces. That's uncomfortable, but necessary. When you learn to sit in silence, you learn to master your emotions. When you master your emotions, you stop being controlled by them. You don't need to prove yourself to anyone. You don't need to match their volume. You just need to stay present and aware. Presence is your edge. Awareness is your weapon. That's how powerful people move, slow, calm, deliberate. They see what's happening before others even realize something changed. Because they're watching. They're noticing. They're reading the entire situation while others are reacting. Every room you walk into has an energy. Every conversation has a rhythm. Every person reveals themselves if you just stay quiet long enough. Watch their eyes. Listen to their tone. Feel their energy. They'll tell you everything without saying a word. You don't need special training for that. You just need discipline. Discipline to stay silent when it's easier to speak. Discipline to listen when it's tempting to prove a point. Discipline to notice what others miss. That's the foundation of mastery, control. Control of your voice. Control of your emotions. Control of your focus. Observation is control in action. It's power disguised as stillness. So from this moment forward, train yourself to notice. Notice your own behavior. Notice how often you interrupt. Notice how often you talk just to fill space. Every time you do, pull back. Pause. Let the silence speak for you. You'll start to see differently. You'll start to think differently. And people will start to feel your presence differently. Because awareness changes everything. It changes how you move, how you speak, and how you lead. Stop talking. Start noticing. That's your new standard. That's the mindset of mastery. You don't need to rush to be heard. You just need to slow down enough to understand. That's how you build emotional intelligence. That's how you see truth. That's how you lead without trying. The world is full of noise, endless opinions, arguments, explanations. Let them talk. You stay quiet. You stay focused. You stay aware. Because the one who observes the longest understands the deepest. And the one who understands the deepest always wins. That's your power. That's your discipline. That's your advantage. Stop explaining. Start observing. Say less. See more. And let your silence do the talking. You've learned the first skill of mastery, observation. Now it's time to go deeper. You've seen what silence can reveal. Next, you'll learn how to feel what people hide. Chapter 2, The Eyes Hear More Than the Ears. Chapter 2, The Eyes Hear More Than the Ears. You've heard the phrase, actions speak louder than words. But most people don't actually listen to actions. They hear the words. They miss the truth. Words can lie. But the body cannot. Tone cannot. Energy cannot. The eyes hear more than the ears. What someone does while they speak tells you more than what they say. Every gesture. Every glance. Every pause. It's communication without words. Most people never see it. Why? Because they're too busy preparing their response. They're too busy thinking about what they'll say next. They're not observing, they're waiting to speak. You have to change that. You have to retrain yourself to see instead of just hear. When you truly observe, you realize every person carries two conversations. One with their words, and one with their body. Only one of them tells the truth. That's the key. When someone says, "I'm fine," but their shoulders drop, believe the shoulders. When they say, "I agree," but their jaw tightens, believe the jaw. When they smile but their eyes go dull, believe the eyes. The body broadcasts honesty. You just have to be still enough to receive the signal. You have a choice, to listen like the average person or to observe like a leader. Average people react to sound. Leaders respond to energy. Stillness is your advantage. The quieter you are, the more you perceive. In meetings, in conversations, in arguments, silence lets you detect rhythm. There's a rhythm to emotion, a pattern to speech, a beat to honesty. Watch the patterns. How people breathe when they're calm. How they shift when they're nervous. How their voice changes when they lie. The details are endless. And once you start noticing, you'll never unsee them. You'll see the hand fidget that betrays insecurity. You'll see the fake nod of agreement from someone silently resisting. You'll see who's confident without needing to speak, and who's loud to hide weakness. Leaders use this skill every day. They wait. They observe. They let the silence do the revealing. There's a study, simple but powerful. People who wait 3 seconds longer before responding are statistically perceived as more intelligent, more thoughtful, and more authoritative. Why? Because silence shows confidence. Only the insecure rush to fill a pause. You don't need to rush. You don't need to jump into every space. You control the tempo. Stillness is not inaction. Stillness is strategic. Stillness gives you vision. When you stay silent for those 3 extra seconds, the other person will often reveal more than they planned. They'll fill the silence. They'll clarify. They'll show their emotional state without realizing it. That's your window. That's when you learn. The eyes hear the tremble in their body. The eyes read what the mouth tries to hide. But here's the catch. To see others clearly, you must first calm yourself. If your mind is loud, you miss the details. If your emotions are unstable, you misread everything. Silence starts inside. Calm is a skill. When you slow down internally, the external world slows too. You begin to see patterns everywhere, in speech, in motion, in tone. Try this the next time you're in a conversation. Stop focusing on words. Focus on rhythm. Watch their breathing. Notice their gestures. Count the pauses. Pay attention to micro-expressions, those half-second flashes of truth before the mask returns. It's not about being suspicious. It's about being aware. Awareness protects you. Awareness elevates you. Awareness lets you lead. Think about how many conflicts you could have avoided if you'd noticed the early signs. The discomfort, the shift in tone, the avoidance in eye contact. You would have known something was wrong before it became obvious. That's the benefit of stillness, foresight. You see problems forming before they surface. You see intentions forming before they're spoken. And that's what makes you powerful. Because power isn't loud. Power is perceptive. Power is silent clarity. When you start seeing beyond words, you realize how much of life is invisible to the untrained eye. You start decoding truth. You start reading life in real time. Someone's body language is a language, a universal one. Learn to read it, not to judge, but to understand, to protect your peace, to sharpen your instinct. Remember this rule: people can control their words for minutes. They can't control their body for long. Eventually, the truth leaks through the movement. That's why great communicators are also great observers. They adjust in real time. They sense hesitation. They slow their pace. They use silence as a mirror. You don't need to call someone out. You don't need to point out their tells. Just notice. Store the information. Use it to navigate smarter. Because observation gives you the map. It shows you who's genuine, who's defensive, who's hiding fear, who's seeking power. That's emotional intelligence in practice. You build that by watching, not judging, just seeing. Seeing patterns without adding emotion. Seeing people as they are, not as you wish they were. You don't need to analyze endlessly. You just need to be present. You just need to notice. The eyes hear tone. The eyes hear movement. The eyes hear hesitation. The eyes hear truth. That's the skill, and it's trainable. Start with your next interaction. Spend more time watching than speaking. Silence your inner dialogue. Let your senses do the work. Because once you start hearing with your eyes, you'll never again be deceived by noise. You'll never again fall for words that sound right but feel wrong. You'll sense it instantly. And that sense, that awareness, will protect your time, your energy, and your peace. That's what this chapter is about. Seeing the invisible, hearing what no one says, and building the quiet intelligence that separates the wise from the reactive. You don't need their permission to pause. You don't need to prove that you're listening. You prove it through presence. Stillness isn't weakness. It's wisdom. And in a world addicted to noise, your stillness will always be your power. You've learned to see beyond words, to hear truth with your eyes. Now it's time to go even deeper. You've noticed the patterns in others. Next, you'll learn to feel the energy behind them. Chapter 3: The Hidden Language of Energy. Chapter 3: The Hidden Language of Energy. Before people speak, they broadcast. Before they say a word, they send a signal. That signal is energy, and you feel it before you can explain it. You walk into a room and something feels off. No one said anything. No one did anything. But you feel it. That's not imagination. That's perception. That's the hidden language of energy. Every person you meet carries an emotional frequency. Calm, chaos, confidence, insecurity. You sense it instantly even if you can't define it. Because energy speaks first. Words come second. That's the key. The truth is, your intuition isn't magic. It's awareness. It's your nervous system picking up what your conscious mind hasn't processed yet. It's how your body hears what your ears haven't caught. Stillness tunes that perception. When you're quiet inside, you detect what others miss. When your emotions aren't screaming for attention, you feel the subtle shifts in others. That's why noisy people never sense anything. Their own energy drowns out the signal. You have a choice. You can keep living on the surface, reacting to words, chasing explanations. Or you can learn to feel beneath the surface, where truth actually lives. Energy never lies. Words can. Intentions can. But energy always reveals. When someone walks into a room angry, you feel it before they speak. When someone's pretending to be confident but radiates fear, you sense the tension before they open their mouth. When someone's calm, collected, grounded, you feel safe before you understand why. That's because energy is communication. Every interaction is an exchange of it. And if you're aware enough, you can read it instantly. Most people ignore that inner signal. They rationalize it away. They say, maybe I'm overreacting. But the truth is you're not overreacting. You're just not trained to trust your perception. You don't need to see proof to sense truth. You just need to stay still long enough to feel it. Stillness is how you tune your inner frequency. When you slow down, your awareness sharpens. When you're silent, you can tell when something feels aligned and when it doesn't. That's not emotion. That's data. Your body picks it up before your mind translates it. Energy speaks first. Words come second. Repeat that until it's instinct. Think about this. Have you ever met someone who said all the right things but something in you still felt uneasy? That's the mismatch. Their words spoke logic. Their energy spoke warning. And every time you ignored that feeling, you paid for it later. That's why awareness is not about paranoia. It's about accuracy. It's about noticing when something doesn't feel congruent. When the tone doesn't match the message. When the smile doesn't match the intention. When the compliment feels coded in control. Your energy radar is always active. You just have to learn how to read it consciously. That starts with your own state. If your energy is anxious, you'll project anxiety. If your energy is calm, you'll perceive more clearly. You can't read the world through distortion. You must stabilize your own signal first. That's self-mastery. That's emotional intelligence in motion. Before every interaction, center yourself. Breathe. Clear your mind. Detach from outcome. When you do, you'll feel everything around you with precision. You'll sense when someone's open or closed. You'll feel when tension spikes. You'll recognize when someone's hiding something, not through logic but through energy. It's not mysticism. It's observation. It's sensitivity built from discipline. You have to train your awareness like a muscle. Practice in daily life. When you're walking into a room, pause at the doorway. Ask yourself, what does this space feel like? Is it light or heavy? Calm or chaotic? Before anyone speaks, notice what your body senses. When you meet someone, don't focus on words first. Focus on presence. Do you feel energized after talking to them, or drained? That's the truth of their energy. That's the truth of yours. Start making decisions based on that awareness. Protect your energy. Not everyone deserves access to it. And not everyone's frequency belongs near yours. You don't need to judge. You just need to observe. Observe who makes you tense without reason. Observe who calms you instantly. Observe who talks peace but carries chaos. People's words will try to convince you. Their energy will always tell you the truth. That's why leaders, coaches, and negotiators rely on stillness. They don't just listen. They feel. They know when to press, when to pause, when to speak, and when to let silence stretch, because they can sense when energy shifts. You've seen it before. Someone walks into a meeting and changes the entire atmosphere. They didn't say a word. Their energy entered first. That's presence. That's influence without effort. You build that kind of presence through inner stillness. The quieter your inner world, the stronger your outer impact. Because your energy becomes steady, unshaken, grounded, trustworthy. People feel it. They don't know why they trust you, but they do. That's real power. Not volume. Not dominance. Stability. Your calm becomes a mirror that reveals everyone else's storm. And when you can stay calm while others lose composure, you win without speaking. So start noticing energy everywhere. in rooms, in people, in yourself. Notice how your own energy changes when you're around certain people. Notice what drains you and what strengthens you. That's your emotional compass, always guiding you toward what's aligned and away from what's toxic. But remember this, awareness without discipline is chaos. You can't just feel energy, you must manage it. You must choose what you carry and what you release. You can't control anyone's energy, only your own. That's the discipline. That's the difference between emotional mastery and emotional reaction. When someone brings chaos, you don't absorb it. You stay grounded. When someone projects insecurity, you don't internalize it. You stay centered. When someone's energy feels off, you don't fix it. You step back. Your peace is your responsibility. Your awareness is your weapon. And your stillness is your shield. So the next time you walk into a room, stop. Take one deep breath. Feel before you listen. Sense before you speak. Observe before you decide. Because energy speaks first. Words come second. And the one who can hear energy leads without effort. That's your next level of awareness. That's your next layer of control. And it begins when you start feeling instead of reacting. Energy is language. You just have to become fluent. You've learned to sense energy, to feel truth before it's spoken. Now it's time to master control over your own. Next, you'll discover how to protect your power and stay steady when emotion tries to pull you off balance. Chapter 4. Control the impulse to react. Every reaction is a leak of power. Every outburst, every quick answer, every defensive word drains you. Reactors lose energy. Observers conserve it. That's the difference between being ruled by emotion and mastering it. You have to understand, control doesn't mean suppression. It means choice. And choice only exists in the space between impulse and response. That space, that 2-second pause, is where power lives. That's where composure is built. That's where dominance is created. When you pause, you shift from emotion to awareness. When you pause, you stop being pulled by the situation and start directing it. When you pause, you own the room. You have a choice. You can react like everyone else, fast, emotional, sloppy. Or you can pause, deliberate, calm, unreadable. That's the key. Reacting is instinct. Responding is intelligence. And those who respond, not react, always lead. Think of the moments you lost control. You said something too soon. You took something too personally. You sent that message you shouldn't have. In that split second, your emotion made the choice for you. And the moment emotion chooses, wisdom disappears. Now think of the times you waited. You stayed quiet. You took a breath. You watched the energy settle. That pause, that single beat of stillness, changed everything. You saw clearer. You spoke smarter. You moved with power, not panic. That's emotional dominance. And it starts with one rule: don't rush your response. The best leaders, negotiators, and strategists understand this. They use silence like a weapon. They know that when emotion rises, patience becomes pressure. In negotiation, silence isn't weakness, it's control. The one who can hold silence longer wins. Because people fear empty space. They rush to fill it. They reveal what they were trying to hide. That's why the most respected negotiators let silence hang. They let others squirm. They let discomfort work for them. Because discomfort makes people talk, and talking exposes truth. You don't need to outtalk anyone. You just need to outweight them. You don't win through reaction. You win through restraint. You don't gain respect by being louder. You gain it by being composed. You have a choice in every moment: feed the fire or contain it. When you contain it, you own it. When you feed it, it owns you. The moment you react emotionally, you hand over control. You tell the world, you can push my buttons and I'll move. But when you stay still, when you don't flinch, when you remain unreadable, people hesitate. They sense your power. Because power isn't loud. Power is calm. You don't need to prove you're in control. You just need to stop losing control. That's the shift. That's the practice. So start training the pause. Next time you feel triggered, don't respond. Breathe. Wait. Let the emotion rise and let it pass. Watch your body want to react and don't. That's mastery. That's how you rewire your instincts. At first, it'll feel impossible. Your mind will scream, say something. Your body will tighten. You'll feel the urge to defend, to argue, to explain. Don't. Let the silence stretch. Let the discomfort breathe. That's where strength is built, in the silence you don't fill. Most people break that silence. They rush to speak because they mistake reaction for strength. But silence under pressure is the mark of someone unshakable. That's who you're becoming. Someone who doesn't react. Someone who doesn't flinch. Someone who doesn't give their peace away just because someone else lost theirs. You don't need their approval. You don't need to explain yourself. You don't need to match their energy. You just need to stay in control of your own. Control is discipline. Discipline is freedom. When you control your impulse to react, you free yourself from emotional manipulation. No one can control you through anger. No one can bait you through ego. No one can derail you through chaos. That's not coldness, that's maturity. That's the result of stillness trained into instinct. You want respect? Stay calm when others can't. You want influence? Pause before you speak. You want peace? Learn to observe instead of react. It's not about silence for the sake of silence. It's about the silence that builds self-control. It's about the pause that changes the outcome. The strongest version of you doesn't argue. It doesn't chase. It doesn't flinch. It observes. It decides. Then it moves, once cleanly with purpose. That's the art of non-reaction. That's emotional precision. Let's make it practical. In a conversation, when someone insults you, don't rush to defend. Pause. Look at them. Say nothing. Let the silence do the work. They'll feel it more than any comeback. In an argument, when someone raises their voice, lower yours. That's how you reclaim the room. Energy follows composure. People sense leadership in calm. In a negotiation, when someone demands, pause. Let the weight of their demand hang in the air. The longer you wait, the more they reveal. And that's where your leverage grows. In life, when your emotions spike, breathe, because the emotion is temporary. But your reaction can create permanent consequences. So you pause. You watch. You feel. Then you choose. That's control. That's power. That's what separates emotional amateurs from masters. You don't need to control others. You just need to control your response. That's enough to shift any dynamic. Remember this phrase and repeat it often. Every reaction is a leak of power. When you feel the urge to react, remind yourself, you're about to give away your energy. You're about to hand over your composure. You're about to lose what you worked for. Then stop. Breathe. Wait. Choose. Because control isn't about being emotionless. It's about being emotionally intelligent. It's not about ignoring your feelings. It's about directing them with intention. Your greatest strength will always be your ability to stay centered when others lose balance, to remain focused when others scatter, to act when others react. That's real power. That's the mastery of response. And once you master it, everything changes. Because when you control the impulse to react, you stop being a puppet of emotion and become the architect of outcome. You've learned to control your reactions. Now it's time to elevate your awareness even further, beyond emotion, beyond instinct, into precision. Next, we'll explore how true observation transforms decision-making itself. Chapter 5. The Discipline of Detachment. Observation without attachment creates clarity. The less you want from people, the more accurately you see them. That's the truth most never learn. Because most people don't observe, they project. They don't see reality, they see what they want to be true. Attachment distorts perception. It turns your vision into desire. It makes you blind to what's in front of you because you're too focused on what you hope to find. Detachment, on the other hand, gives you precision. It clears the fog. It lets you see people, patterns, and truth without emotional interference. That's the discipline. To watch without wanting. To see without judging. To understand without needing. Watch, don't want. That's the mantra. Because wanting clouds everything. When you want approval, you miss manipulation. When you want affection, you ignore red flags. When you want success too badly, you chase shortcuts instead of mastering systems. The discipline of detachment protects you from illusion. It keeps you grounded in reality when emotion tries to rewrite it. You have a choice: see what's real, or see what you wish were real. One path builds strength. The other builds stories. Most people live in stories. They create characters out of strangers. They imagine loyalty where there is none. They invent connection where only convenience exists. And when those illusions collapse, they call it betrayal. But it was never betrayal. It was misperception. It was attachment dressing itself up as intuition. Detachment doesn't make you cold. It makes you clear. It doesn't kill emotion. It gives emotion direction. Because when you're emotionally neutral, you're free to see things as they are. You're not desperate for outcomes. You're not addicted to validation. You're just present, fully, calmly, and powerfully aware. That's what true observers do. They don't chase meaning. They notice patterns. They don't predict. They perceive. Detachment creates freedom, the freedom to decide based on truth, not emotion. Think about it. When you're attached, every situation feels personal. Every tone feels like an insult. Every silence feels like rejection. Every delay feels like disrespect. But when you detach, you realize most of it isn't about you. People act from their own stories, their own fears, their own programming. Your peace doesn't depend on their behavior. It depends on your clarity. That's emotional maturity. And clarity comes from neutrality. You can't see clearly if you're emotionally invested in a specific outcome. You can't observe truth if you're trying to bend it to your desires. That's why detachment isn't weakness, it's strength under control. It's power guided by awareness. You're not supposed to feel nothing. You're supposed to feel everything, but not let it control you. You can care deeply and still stay detached. You can love and still see clearly. You can participate in life fully and still hold your center. That's mastery. Detachment means this: you stay involved, but you don't get entangled. You give, but you don't cling. You observe, but you don't absorb. Watch, don't want. In every situation, ask yourself, what am I hoping to see here? That single question exposes your bias. It shows you where your attachment hides. Because wherever you want something too much, you'll see less. You'll hear less. You'll sense less. Wanting creates noise. And in that noise, truth gets lost. But the detached observer doesn't get fooled. They stay silent inside. They listen to energy. They trust behavior over words. They believe patterns, not promises. That's clarity. That's how you stop being deceived by others and by your own emotions. Detachment is what allows you to pause before reacting. It's what allows you to sense energy without judging it. It's what allows you to hold power without losing peace. When you detach, you see how predictable human behavior really is. You see how most people move from fear, from ego, from insecurity. You stop taking it personally. You stop trying to fix it. You just notice it calmly, silently, accurately. That's the moment you step into mastery. Because now you're no longer a participant in chaos. You're the observer of it. And the observer always wins. Wanting is noise. Watching is power. The less you want from people, the more they reveal. When you no longer need approval, people show you who they truly are. When you no longer chase love, you see who gives it freely. When you no longer seek validation, you find truth. This is why the most powerful people seem emotionally calm. They're not detached from life. They're detached from illusion. They've stopped expecting the world to match their desires. They've trained their mind to see clearly, act cleanly, and move quietly. You can do the same. You train detachment by practicing restraint. Restraint from assumptions. Restraint from needing immediate resolution. Restraint from over-explaining. Restraint from emotional overcommitment. Every time you choose stillness over reaction, you build detachment. Every time you pause before labeling someone, you build clarity. Every time you let go of needing an outcome, you build peace. Watch, don't want. Observe, don't absorb. See, don't chase. This isn't apathy. This is awareness without distortion. This is how you see what's actually happening. When you detach, you stop arguing with reality. You stop demanding life to go your way. You start flowing with it, strategically, peacefully, intelligently. You stop forcing connections that don't align. You stop trying to prove your worth. You stop taking rejection personally. Because now you see, it's all just information. Nothing more. Nothing less. That's the clarity of detachment. And that clarity gives you power. The power to act with precision. The power to stay grounded no matter the storm. The power to walk away without bitterness and stay present without expectation. You no longer live from reaction. You live from awareness. You no longer see through emotion. You see through understanding. Watch, don't want. That's the principle. That's the posture. That's the discipline. You don't control people by chasing them. You don't understand life by forcing it. You master it by observing it, calmly, curiously, quietly. That's the discipline of detachment. It's not withdrawal. It's wisdom. It's not isolation. It's insight. It's not coldness. It's control. And once you learn it, your perception sharpens beyond emotion, beyond bias, beyond fear. You see clearly. You act cleanly. You move quietly. That's power. That's peace. That's you, detached, aware, unshaken. Watch, don't want. Always. You've learned the art of silence. You've learned the discipline of stillness. You've learned to sense energy, master reaction, and see truth without bias. This is the power of silent observation. It's not about doing more. It's about seeing more. It's about leading with awareness instead of impulse. Stay silent. Stay observant. Stay detached. Because the quieter you become, the clearer the world reveals itself. Stay focused, stay disciplined, and if this message spoke to you, subscribe for more powerful mind training like this.